людям. Shenanisi, manjasi, chayasi, mesto mu ti je vrakamu, mu tečiš, kovojca, udolu okolo.
This scene, amongst many others, left a really strong remark on me. One of the better snippets from You Won't Be Alone, a horror film written and directed by Goran Stolevsky, which also happens to be his first feature-length film. It is a lesser-known horror title from this year that I found compelling enough to give it a watch, simply for two reasons. The former being my admiration towards anything related to horror and the drought that the genre has been treated with for quite some time. And the latter being the alluring effect that Noomi Rapace has on me. These incentives were what convinced me to give this film a try. And I'm glad that I did, as I don't get to witness cinematic experience of this fashion that leaves me with such an after effect. While I was watching it, it was progressively made apparent why it wasn't that popular amidst the masses. Being a foreign title that lacks various factors that is favored in the sphere of casual consumers. It's subtle with its writing and slow with its pacing, featuring mostly internal monologue narrated by our key character and what they go through. The series of events that they endure has this humane and tranquil quality to it, which in a film that establishes itself in the horror genre is a huge turn-off for the majority. Even the gory aspect and body horror elements that it possesses can't act as a substitute to make itself engaging to them. One of the strongest suits of this gothic, folktale-inspired film is in its visuals. The atmospheric setting and how it's utilized to its advantage and, in accordance to the narrative, works in a perfect tandem. However, it isn't your usual visual feast. It's reminiscent to the works of Terence Malick and Andrei Tarkovsky. Basically meaning it isn't everyone's cup of tea and can be easily a hit or miss depending on your preferences. Principles that are also common in the direction style of the aforementioned directors is visibly prominent here. There is a meditative value to this film and is quintessentially a visual examination of humanity and what it means to be a person in this world of ours. Some of the best and my favorites in this genre generally tries to explore such grand themes and existential questions, not to answer them, but leave the viewer in a situation where they can't stop but wonder about it. So, let's do that. The forthcoming chronicles takes place in the 19th century Macedonia, and after quickly establishing its backdrop with a couple of shots of the landscape, we are introduced to Maria, a witch, or as she is regionally known, a wolf eatress. She enters a home to sustain her needs by drinking the blood of a baby, where her petrified mother tries to bargain for her infant daughter's life, named Neven. Maria agrees to spare her on the condition that on her 16th birthday she will be handed over to her. And to mark the seal of approval, she takes away one of the fundamental characteristics that makes us human from that child, our voice. The ability to speak and vocalize our opinions is one of the core facets of our species and what makes us special. We subconsciously use it to form crude description about people without even seeing them. A good chunk of their identity is generally identified from their preferred language and what accent they have. It carries a lot of weight the way we are perceived. But the hardships of the girl marked by a witch doesn't end there. In a futile attempt to keep her safe from the inevitable return of the witch, the mother hides her in a cave to keep her existence concealed. Isolated from human contact or connection and detached from the outside world, she starts to develop feral behaviors. Time passes by with her being captivated by the sounds of nature and the absence of that in her. Painfully slow, but it's peaceful. Until the day she turns 16 years old, as Maria returns in the form of an eagle, kills her mother, and molds herself into her appearance to deceive Neven. So, she follows her outside of the cave, where Maria performs the witch-making ritual on her. And she obliges, simply because she still thinks that's her mother. Much like any offspring, she imprinted on the person who was with her for the longest time. In her eyes, she is still following her protective guardian. However, unbeknownst to her, she was being abruptly pushed into the ever-perplexing world of humans, whom Maria dislikes as all they ever do is hurt others, especially witches like them. Neven and Maria hardly get along, but the latter tries to teach her how to survive, but the former would rather frolic around with those creatures. These differences leads to Maria abandoning Neven to fend for herself. Alone and alienated since birth, now in a foreign situation, the transforming journey of her begins. With no guidance in how to deal or even understand the life that has been presented to her, she marches on, getting tantalized by everything that she sees, touches, and hears, making mistakes, learning from it, and trying her best to live through them, reshaping herself to different identities to adapt with what life throws at her, garnering more knowledge about people that surrounds her from the way they treat her, which is heavily influenced by her age and sex. There are interactions that are full of compassion and acceptance, and then there are the ones which aren't. She undergoes numerous brutal acts, but that doesn't hamper her fascination towards the life of humans. She never loses the sense of innocence and intrigue towards humanity that she was bewitched with since the beginning, something that Maria can never comprehend. Her choosing to live in that manner by sacrificing the powers that she was bestowed with to lead a simplistic life and finding beauty in the ordinary can't be corrupted by Maria, no matter how much she tries. Nonetheless, it isn't easy all the time. Guising herself with different corpses, she learns various lessons from the roles of those individuals and the rules they have to abide by, helping her to come to the conclusion that it isn't blissful at all times. Still, she is eager to tailor herself to their needs, mimicking their mannerisms and acting out their activities to memorize how they behave towards each other, trying her best to copy them to feel belonged in their community. Her desire is so deep that she is willing to drop her guard down, disregarding all the warnings from her mother and Maria, who were either overprotective or fearful in nature regarding the outside world and humans. And by doing so, she experiences several emotions that were previously devoid in her strenuous life, encounters death and the pain that comes from it, falls in love, and through that, finds her new life. This depiction of humanity by Goran Stolevsky has an extremely bleak essence and can be grotesque at certain moments. However, there is something poetic about the way he portrays it, which can be harsh, but isn't far from the truth. With hacking and slicing away the outer layers of social constructs from our reality, he leaves us with the delightful and displeasing sides of humanity, to be looked at, pondered about, and examined to ignite a change from within.